Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And boy, oh boy, this is fun to watch. We're watching the media eat each other. Actually, this is Sharon Waxman from The Wrap. She's the publisher, editor of The Wrap. And she said, yeah, 2024 is the year the media died.
You know, it's funny though, because she's the one that said she was caught off guard, that when they lost that much, but she was one who went and looked into it. She's like, there's two people, either they blame everybody else or they actually like, well, how'd this happen? And then we got to figure out how this happened and then try to look into it. And she's the one who did that. So she keeps writing these articles, which basically says everything that we've been telling you the entire time.
Yeah.
And other people like us have been telling you over and over and over again. And shocker, everything she's going to say in this is basically we've been telling you over and over and over again. Welcome to the party, Sharon.
If you were actually paying attention, you were paying attention to podcasters and YouTubers and independent media outlets, you would have seen this coming 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Right, but credit to her.
Yes.
She did at least say, I want to know why, and
Yes.
is trying to learn and not just blaming other people.
Well, we've got
So there's credit to her for that.
Yeah, we've got other people out there that, and it's going to take a lot for them to earn people's trust. But we have like the Young Turks now. They're starting to pivot. They're like, where did we miss the memo?
So I respect that, because it's like, you might have been saying this stuff, but as soon as you realize that maybe we missed something, and you're willing to admit that you did and try to figure out what happened and try to understand people where are at, I respect that. Even if you were, saying something I didn't like before, I respect that you're trying to understand it.
If it's legit and it's not just like, oh shit, we're on the losing team, we better switch teams just to make sure.
Yeah. I don't think that's the case here, but yeah.
What's irritating, and before we get into, I'm just going to go on a little bit of a tangent here. What's irritating is when you've been the outsiders for
Took all the hits.
years, and trust me, it's not just us. There are people out there that got hit a lot harder than we did. But like when you were taking the contrary position when it was not cool to be quote unquote.
It was honest position.
The honest position.
Honest position.
Right, and you get called a Nazi, and you get called a fascist, and you get called alt-right, and all these names.
You lose media access and everything else.
You lose media access just because you're like, hey, can we go back to center? Could we pivot back to center a little bit and stop being so weird? When the far left had complete control of everything, if you stepped out of line, you were literally Hitler.
But now it's cool to step out of line.
Now it's cool
to
be
be Hitler. It's like now, I'm just like, pretty much. But I'm just like, now people are like, it's safe, so because they that side won, so it's safe now, so I can say something.
That's exactly it.
And like now. This person, I think in particular, is more like, what did we miss? Young Turks are more like, what did we miss? It's more about trying to understand it than it is what's a safe way to go.
But they wouldn't listen. That's the thing. Like, you try to tell them, you try to have a conversation with them and be like, you're on the wrong side.
There is no conversation, and you get called, you're literally Hitler, and then I'm morally superior. Bye. That was the conversation.
Yeah, and now a lot of these people are out of work, and we're gonna talk about this. We're gonna see more and more of this. We're gonna see the great reckoning, and we talk about the pendulum swing. And you push a pendulum too far in one direction, it's gonna swing back hard in the other direction. And it might go too far. I
don't want to see it go too far. Let's not do that. But, it probably will happen.
But a lot of people are going to feel really good about getting revenge. They're going to be like, oh, finally, we're vindicated.
Which is what happened in 2020. They felt like they got revenge. They were getting revenge. They took it too far. And that's why we ended up where we're at now.
Yes.
So don't take it too far.
I don't know what, I'm going to be honest, in the media landscape, I don't know what it's going to take for things to kind of normalize.
I don't think it's going to. I think it's going to be a new normal.
Not anytime soon.
It's going to be a new normal.
So let's talk about this. Before you get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. You will get a woohoo if you do. Clownfish-com. I swear to God, I am going to just put a teaser or a commercial thing at the end of the videos because I'm tired of hawking stuff in the middle of the video, but nobody pays attention if you don't. But thank you. Go out to clownfish-com, support the reef, pick up some merchandise, join the Plus Club. You know the drill, right? This comes from The Wrap, Sharon Waxman. Truth bombs of 2024. The media is over. Antisemitism is cool. And DEI is kaput. Now, the weird thing about this particular issue is that it's not coming from the side that were called Nazis for years.
I know, right?
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
That's a little weird, right? And that might explain why they're not throwing that around as much as they used to. Because it's like, well, what were Nazis primarily known for?
Oh, yeah.
right. Yeah, we can't
We're
say
free
that.
Palestine now, so
Yeah, so you're fascists now. That's the new word.
Yeah, they keep using words. It's like I don't think these words mean what you think they mean. But anyway.
Yeah, so we'll kind of just buzz through this one pretty quick, though. But, she says, the impending arrival of a second Donald Trump presidency, this time backed by a win of the popular vote, means we need to buckle up, hunker down, prepare for all the things we can't exactly guess they're coming, but they're coming.
Like yesterday?
Yeah.
Like all the things that happened yesterday?
It said a year ago, we were emerging from the fever dream of 2 Hollywood strikes and trying to fathom how AI is going to remake our world. A year later, here's my assessment of what turned out to be the really big shifts in our shifting world. That's what they thought. Hollywood was like, the biggest thing that's going to happen to Hollywood is that they're going to use the AIs, the computers.
Well, not just that. We kept saying that we were terrible. We got called so many names for saying, these strikes, that's great. Those who get to stay will get those things, but a lot of you will not get those because they're going to get rid of a lot of you. You're wrong. How dare you? You're just a bunch of alt-right blankety blank blank blanks. And look what happened. Exactly what we said was going to happen, which is going to happen to animation too. Sorry you don't want to hear it, but it's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Welcome to the party, Sharon.
I don't think anybody really could have foreseen the speed at which legacy media collapsed. I mean,
it's a multifaceted issue. I mean,
yeah.
Them focusing on streaming and trying to boost their profits, that did not help either. But yes.
Yeah, and the only thing I can think of that's close to the media collapse of 2024 is the retail collapse of 2008. Where brands that we had for decades, in some cases a century, just disappeared almost overnight. And that's kind of happening here. Like, I could totally see within a year or two, there's no more MSNBC, there's no more CNN.
Well, CNN's trying to go back to center. They did something the other day. I forget what it was. I was sending it to you, and I was like, "That's funny," because they're really trying so hard.
Throw up the flag
to be like, "Oh, look, we're the voice of reason now."
We're the voice of reason now.
Hey, you know what? Fine, come back to center. If you go back to center and you prove yourself, maybe people will not bury you. MSNBC, I think, is not going to be able to do that, but they got sold off anyway. So
yeah, and I think CNN's in for. I mean, they've had so many layoffs. Anyway, she says the year 2024 will be the year the media fell apart.
It was falling apart before that.
She says
it's just you're actually being able to see it more clearly.
Oh yeah. The ecosystem of news media has been cracking for 2 decades, but in 2024 it fully fell apart. While we become accustomed to the bloodletting of constant layoffs in legacy newsrooms, now we're seeing premium talent ditching their jobs to start independent news organizations like Barry Weiss's Free Press. Are we allowed to mention her? Because she was supposed to be an alt-right Nazi, even though she's a gay Jewish woman.
I know, right? I know. I know that they just have to label you so they feel better about mistreating people. Like, it's not okay to mistreat them. You have to accept everything about them.
Right,
but it's completely okay if they put labels on you so they feel better and morally superior to treat you in ways they would not accept to be treated themselves.
Oliver Darcy's status, Kara Swisher's podcast, or like Don Lemon and Megyn Kelly thriving on YouTube channels. Don Lemon, no. We actually get more views than Don Lemon. That's pretty freaking scary. So what we're seeing is that some people thrive, but then you have people that were basically just towing the line, the party line, the corporate line for years, trying to go out on their own, and it's not working so well for them. It really isn't. But yeah, this kind of ties into something we were going to talk about the other day, that more Americans were getting their news from YouTube. And I'm concerned about that because YouTube now, they put a thing out that they're going to try to crack down on like headlines and whatever. I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but trust me, the legacy media is not going to give up. But we talked about this, 2 years ago, that the reason they were attacking YouTubers so hard, and this, we saw it especially in the pop culture space. The reason they attacked YouTubers so hard is we were a threat to them. We were a threat to the legacy media. We didn't have to play by their rules. And they were all in lockstep. A lot, especially these pop culture outlets. They were like, what are the marching orders from Lucasfilm? What are the marching orders from Marvel? What, from the game studios, all that. And, they would all have the same, 20 of the same article from a whole bunch of different.
Well, I still do. We're noticing it this other day.
Yeah. We notice it now. People notice now. And it's in large part because of YouTube channels that people are paying attention, because of podcasts. The people are paying attention. Like, isn't it weird that all these people seem to be, And
no matter where you get your news from, always double check it. Don't just take anything we say as gospel either. If there's something that we say you don't think is maybe, go check. I encourage you to do so because it's like you shouldn't listen to any one person anyway.
That's true. You shouldn't. You should be able to compare sources and realize what biases are, and everybody's got biases,
but understand though the truth's the truth, not just what your bias is. Confirmation bias isn't the same as truth. But anyway, let's go back to this.
Yeah, she said cable news went to war with Trump and they failed to stop him. The billionaire newspaper owners at the Washington Post and the LA Times bucked their newsrooms and refused to endorse Kamala Harris. It wouldn't have mattered. It really wouldn't have mattered. Actually, all would have happened, and I think they knew that. They knew the writing was on the wall, that the pendulum was swinging, and they wanted to stay in business. They're like, if we do that, then a lot of our subscribers who maybe support Trump aren't going to subscribe anymore. A lot of our advertisers that are maybe supporting Trump aren't going to support us anymore. We need every penny we can get.
Well, they gave into the newsroom on that, to the newsroom demand they go all in and put, and go back
to on the front page.
Go back to the norm, which was, censor what you have to get what you want,
But it doesn't work. People are over it. They said, or she said, this was a tipping point that will stand in history. Now, almost 2 full months after the election, people have still not tuned back into the news. Personally, I'm finding other ways. This is her. Personally, I'm finding other ways to stay informed, which means grazing across a much wider set of news sources. It requires a more skeptical filter. Mm-hmm. It's less efficient, and I miss stuff. But even though I know we need it, mainstream news has lost me for the moment.
And a lot of other people. But again, like she said, stay skeptical, double check things.
What?
I know, right?
Okay, so this all, again,
everything we've been saying
snaps into focus here.
Double check us. It's right here.
Why have they stopped calling conservatives, even if you're mildly conservative, why have they stopped calling them Nazis? Because now they agree with the Nazis.
I know, right? Now it's okay because, okay. Palestine.
Yeah, and I think Sharon is Jewish. I think she's Jewish. She said, the year anti-Semitism found a home on the left. Mm-hmm. Don't tell me this has nothing to do with anything, because it does. Mm-hmm. The shocking rise of anti-Semitism, not anti-Zionism or anti-Israel sentiment in mainstream institutions, the BBC, Columbia University, Irish and Canadian government offices. It's bad. It doesn't bode well for good people everywhere. It doesn't take a trained student of history to know that when societies start demonizing Jews, catastrophe usually ensues for both Jews and those societies.
Oh, is she allowed to say that? Because when Gina Carano makes similar comments, she's in trouble.
Gina Carano, yes, makes comments like that. So Gina Carano, who's like,
she's talking more about politics, but yeah.
I don't understand the backwards logic in this. You put a post up saying, hey, this is how it started with the Jews, and look what happened there, and then they turn around and call her a Nazi.
Yeah, I know. They keep doing that.
Wait a second. Did you not read what she was actually posting? She was like, don't do this to Jewish people.
And she never took political sides either in her post. And they're like, you're just saying that about the public. It's like, that's not what she said. But okay. Yes, I know.
Wow, this is crazy. See, I haven't even been paying too much attention to this. And here's the thing, like Hollywood, there are a lot of Jewish people.
Yes.
Like a lot of Jewish people in Hollywood, right?
A lot.
So when the left decided it was going to turn on Jewish folks, you literally bit the hand that fed you, right? At that point. They said, there's a shocking omission of Jews from the Motion Picture Academy's new museum celebrating the history of Hollywood and the insensitive to be generous approach in fixing the omission by using offensive stereotypes.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even know anything
about that one.
Wow. This is going to be a tough conversation. Let's have it. To the best of my knowledge, like at least like a half to 3/4 of Hollywood's Jewish, or people have Jewish families, or it's like, that's wild. I wasn't even paying attention to that. So why is Hollywood all of a sudden turning against the left? I think why are all these studio heads kissing Trump's ring all of a sudden? That might be a big part of it. Like, wow, we're, this is how you call everybody else Nazis. You tell us how you really feel. The year DEI hit the wall, it was bound to happen.
Yes.
Oh my God, Sharon, pendulum swing. And this pendulum is swinging pretty hard.
Wow. It's like everything.
Maybe she listens to us. Hi, Sharon. How you doing? After a peak national surge to combat racism after George Floyd, DEI programs adopted at C-suite levels and media and entertainment companies are in a retreat across the board. Some execs quit in frustration after concluding there was no support for. Hold on.
Wait. There was no support for prioritizing diversity.
Hold on. Go ahead.
Well, go ahead. You go first.
No. I want your take on that because I'm just like I got to process. What are you thinking?
Okay. Well, here's my thing. There's no support for prioritizing diversity because look, I think it's on the opposite. I think, they did. There is support for prioritizing diversity. So much so that you hired sometimes incompetent people. But unfortunately, people who were competent, people who are really good and really should be there, get looked at as if they're part of the problem, not the solution, because of the way you've done this. I've said this time and time again. DEI has done more to harm, I think, than help. And I think all it's done is turn people against each other. I think it's caused more division. I think it's caused more islamophobia because of this kind of behavior. Now, what were you going to say?
No, I was just like, yeah, it was artificial.
Exactly. It wasn't diversity inclusion. No, it was to force diversity inclusion.
No, it wasn't even to force diversity inclusion. It was in a lot of cases. I'm going to say it.
Lip service.
It was lip service. On the more mild end of it, it was lip service. Like, yeah, we're going to say these things, but we're not actually going to do these things. The more extreme case was it was used to actually enforce corporate racism and be like, we will literally hire anybody but a white dude.
They've said that.
But
they also were getting weren't they for a while getting kickbacks and stuff for it? Like that if you did these things, that there was the money for you and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, there was grant money and there was money from BlackRock or whatever. And yeah, so they were financially incentivized to do it. And then what happened was as soon as they realized that the general public wasn't having it, it was so obvious and so ham-fisted. And again, look, the history of this, it's just like, God, people have short-term memory. Like, it actually seemed like TV shows and movies were more diverse and inclusive in the 70s and 80s and 90s. I mean, even
2000s, early 2000s. Yes. When we grew up, it was no one, I've said it so many times. We had diversity all the time and no one cared. No one thought anything of it. It was expected. It wasn't. Now I don't care who you are. You're starting to watch it and you're like, okay, well, I'm noticing there's one of this and one of that and one. And we didn't notice before. We didn't care.
And
we didn't. It was like, oh, okay, I just want to see it because so and so's in it.
So I'm sitting here thinking, on TV, I'm like, how many quote unquote black shows do we have now compared to what we had in the 70s and 80s? And back then, people really didn't think much of it, and now, because of this, and again, because of the forced diversity and the ham-fisted nature of it, and then scolding people if they didn't like it or questioned it, now every time somebody sees somebody that's not straight and white in a show or a movie or whatever, they immediately are like, oh, here we go.
I think that's what's going on. I think that's what's going on when they're leading with, look how diverse it says. We're trying to be women. We're trying to race swap or gender swap everybody. People are immediately like, nope, I'm out, because it's like you said, ham-fisted. And I think it did the actual opposite of what it's intended. And back in the day, if a show didn't do well, it happened to be a black show or a show about
some of the top shows out there.
I know, but say it didn't do well. Yeah. It wasn't because you were racist. It was because the show didn't do well. Now, if you don't like a show, we put all this diversity inclusion into it. They are just using people as shields. That if you don't like it, it's because you're, and it's never their fault. It's never because maybe the writing sucked, maybe the actors were good, but their writing was terrible. No, it's because you are a terrible person.
You're a bigot. And
of course, people are going to turn their back up to that.
It's actually that's the wild thing. 2 or 3 years of forced DEI mandates have set actual diversity and inclusion in Hollywood back decades.
I agree. 100%. And it's created division and bigotry that didn't exist before. And I think everybody in some way somehow are guilty of that, even a little bit. I would never have thought things like, oh, of course. But now I do. And I feel bad about it. But I do because it's been so over the top, so overt, so insulting.
Yeah, exactly. It's the pendulum pushed too hard to the left.
Yeah.
And now it's going to swing back really hard. And it's going to swing back to the point where I think we're actually going to see less diversity in movies and TV shows, because the takeaway from the C-suite is going to be, oh, people don't want shows with black folks or gay folks or whatever in it.
Which isn't true.
And that's not
if it's done right and it's done organically and it isn't ham-fisted. And it's just done the opposite of everything that it was supposed to do. And then unfortunately, there are people who qualified who are very, very good that should have positions that happen to be minority based, and they're going to get rejected unfairly because right now, if they get a job, everybody's wondering, and probably including them, did I get it because I earned it or did I get it because of DEI?
Yeah,
and it's not fair.
And we have heard stories of this firsthand. There was the one animator that pitched a show to, was it Cartoon Network?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was.
And they didn't get picked up because Cartoon Network looked at things like High Guardian Spice.
They cited High Guardian Spice.
And they were like, yeah, we tried the diversity and inclusion and it was a huge failure. It was a lot of backlash. And that's what's going to happen. When you've got Dana Walden at Disney coming out and saying we passed on really good sitcoms because they were too white. Do you think that gives people the warm fuzzies about diverse shows?
No.
Because all they're hearing is, oh, you don't like white shows. Okay, so every
or you're
time
taking priority over something that, because she admitted it was a really great show.
Yeah, that's
we passed on a really good show because we didn't like the casting or we thought it was too white. I'm like, so you're going to take a less good show because it's not white?
So, okay, well, so what's the, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's the malfunction? Or you see what the BBC's doing where it's like, I'm sorry, but from my understanding, the UK is not 75% diverse. It's pretty much ground zero for white people. Why are you making it out like it's, you know what I'm saying? Where it's so unrealistic, the overrepresentation is so unrealistic.
That's the representation too. And and the thing is, I just want to go back to where it was, where it just, you had good shows, happen to be diverse, and you're like, yeah, it's a good show. That's all I'm asking for. Yeah. But then they're going on here about, Kamala Harris's election loss meant anything at the symbolic level for women and people of color. It also sent a shot across the bow of diversity and inclusion activists.
That was starting before. I want to be clear. Like, again, anybody that's been listening to our channel, listening to other channels, podcasts, whatever, the backlash against DEI started a year before the election. Like, companies were dropping it because it wasn't profitable.
Oh, and then another part, too, about symbolic level for women and people of color. Bullshit. Okay, Sharon, I'm going to call you out on this one. Bull crap. It's because Harris wasn't qualified. People didn't choose her. A lot of people that were Democrats voted the opposite because they didn't have a choice. She got appointed. She never, ever even got the electoral votes, or she didn't get any of the votes for the primary. She couldn't even get a single vote. And she just was going to get to walk in. She couldn't manage her own campaign. And yet you wanted her to be in charge. And because people didn't pick her because they could tell that she was incompetent and she was kind of, running. They caught her. CNN caught her running two different ads, one pro-Palestine, one pro-Israel, depending on where she was at. She's so two-faced. And the media was like pushing her so hard and people don't trust the media, that people just turned against it because they're like, no, she's not qualified. It's nothing to do with her being a woman or being black. It's because she wasn't qualified.
Yeah. And a lot of Democrats, I think that's what turned a lot of people away too, was they're like, yeah, we didn't get to pick our candidate.
I heard that over and over again.
That was the Young Turks. That was a big thing they had
because they wouldn't have chose her.
They said get Biden out of there, but we need to have a primary and we need to.
Well, they weren't given it, and she wouldn't have won if they had. So then they said after the Trump campaign successfully demonized trans people. No, here's the thing about the trans thing. Most people, I think people are starting to get they're back up against trans people, which I don't think is necessarily fair. Because you have the activists out there being so ridiculous about stuff, mostly about women's sports, that people are being turned against, even the ones that are just, mind their own business and they aren't bothering you and they're not political themselves, because you have these actors, a lot of them aren't even trans, in people's faces all the time, and they're creating division. All right?
That's part of it, and parental backlash. I think
parental backlash is a big part of it,
because it's being pushed in schools, and we got, California, all this stuff going on there, and parents are huge consumers of media. We know we bought so many DVDs, kids DVDs, if I ever see the Wiggles again. But like,
they're all different now. Just
they're all new, all different Wiggles.
There's a bunch of girls in it too now. So
where's Jeff?
I don't know. Did he wake up or did he stay sleeping? I don't know.
Jeff just take a nap and never woke up? Is that how they explain it? Like, hey kids, Jeff just took a nap and he never woke up.
I don't know.
This is a new Wiggle.
Some of them are still in it. I don't know. I haven't watched Wiggles in a long, long time. But we used to do nothing but watch the Wiggles.
But I'm saying, like, parents are huge consumers. In the case of Disney, and that's what she's bringing up specifically, is Disney. And this is not something that parents want to have a conversation with their kids about. Regardless of how you personally feel about it, the vast majority of parents do not want to deal with it, and they're speaking with their dollars, and they don't trust Disney to not lecture to their children.
Yeah, well, the difference is they're beginning to phase out plot lines. They're talking about for children's
entertainment.
The plot line in question, all right, for the Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur was the one character where they were being locked in the locker room because the one character was a trans girl, and that the evil bad guy didn't think the trans girl should be playing on a girl's team, as if the evil people think that, even when the majority of people, even a lot of trans people, think that no, you probably, if you're a trans woman, you probably shouldn't be competing against, well, I don't use the term cis, I hate it, but like biologically born females, because it's not fair. It just isn't fair. Frankly, it isn't. And if you have a problem with that, I love how you're like, believe climate change because of science. Kiss my ass. It is a problem. I have no problem with people being trans. I do have a problem with the sports issue. And I have a problem with these activists who are most of the time aren't even trans, going around speaking for everybody that is, and then it causes them problems. I have a problem with that. But then about the other thing, the win or lose, once again, it's because it's a kid's show. It's geared for children. Inside Out, right? They had to turn down the gay. Why were they having a bunch of gay shit in a kid's show? And a movie about a kid? Why?
Yeah.
Why was She-Ra brought back and every character is suddenly some, alphabet member? Everyone
it was statistically improbable, the number of, and we had this for a while, and and other people have actually pointed out in other channels. I think Zach pointed out that he said he knows that like for a while there, like every CW show, every like Netflix series, it was like half LGBTQ or more. And he's like, well, it seems like the representation's not gone, but it's going back to more normal numbers, right? And I think it was over correction. But again, you push that pendulum really hard in one direction, and it's going to swing back harder.
And we needed to go back to where it was, because for years it was done right and people didn't care.
I mean, could things improve? Yeah, but I'm like sitting here thinking like they had more. I'm pretty sure they had more black sitcoms in the 70s and 80s than we've got now.
Probably.
Like I'm sitting here thinking about it, and I'm like, what do we have? Blackish,
I don't think it's on anymore.
And then they had Grownish, and I'm like, okay, but like when I was, and I've talked about this before. I used to watch TBS after school when I was a kid. I'd watch my cartoons and I'd watch TBS, and they had like 2-hour blocks of sitcoms, and it was like Jeffersons and Sanford and Son, Good Times, and What's Happening, which is one of my favorite shows. I loved What's Happening, and I used to watch those all the time. And I didn't think anything of it. And that was just a sampling of the shows that they had in the 70s and 80s. And then of course Cosby Show was the biggest show of the 80s. So what the fuck happened? We had Will and Grace was a huge hit. Mm-hmm. Right? It was a good show. It didn't matter what the characters and the actors weren't gay, but imagine that you could actually play somebody outside of your comfort zone or whatever. But the show was popular. Ellen was popular. What happened?
No, I'm just saying they're just trying to they're trying to like make it sound like it's one thing when it's not.
Right.
But then they're talking about streaming, and they're saying 5 years ago Hollywood made a fateful pivot to streaming, which I think is a big part of why things are falling apart.
Yeah. Because it's we talk about pop culture, and we talk about the death of pop culture, and what actually killed pop culture was the fact that we don't have the common thread anymore. Everybody's watching a niche show for them at a different time.
There's too much stuff.
It's not like everybody's watching Cheers at 8 o'clock on Thursdays.
You're not, except for a few juggernaut type shows like Game of Thrones or different things like that still was even, I would argue, before the streaming was like Stranger Things like that. Except for a couple juggernaut shows. Most people, you don't have those moments anymore like that you used to have, that everybody be like all about. And I think it's too much, and I think it's killing pop culture in general.
So we keep hearing survive until 25. That's the motto across the board.
Good luck with that.
If we can just survive until 25, everything's going to be better. Well, they were saying survive until 25, I think, before Trump got elected. And I don't know what the hell is going to happen. The year Hollywood hung in. All right. Thousands of jobs were disappeared this year, just like in The Leftovers. Poof. It's hard to believe those jobs in reality TV, visual effects, and across the board production will be coming back anytime soon. Yeah. Oh my God. This is crazy. A studio chief who shall remain nameless and genderless sucks to be them, told me recently that the deal struck by the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild in 2023 appeared to achieve a whole host of increased benefits for working actors and writers. But the reality, said this studio chief, is that the new contracts have made production so much more expensive that going offshore is now an imperative to make money.
No, you're kidding. Who's been saying that?
And the increased cost has stifled production decisions as every nickel gets scrutinized. Oh my God. Hashtag Clownfish was right.
Well, the part they're saying genderless, which probably means it's a girl. The reason being is there's a lot less studio chiefs that are male than female to be easy to identify them. So I'm guessing it's probably a woman. But anyway.
Yeah, they're saying, hey, with, Hollywood may swing back to profit, but it's going to mean less people and AI. And
well, that's what's going to happen. They're going to go back to profit, but it's going to be those who got to stay are going to get more. And a lot of you are not going to be there at all. And that's what we told you was going to happen.
Oh my God, I know. And I am looking at you, animation industry. I'm not trying to be that guy. We're not trying to be that guy. Guys.
Just listen. Just listen. We're trying to warn you. Listen.
There is precedent for this. There's precedence for this. So, talking about the year of Elon. She doesn't like Elon. Wish us luck in 2025. They're saying, wait, Elon's an unelected shadow political force. So he's the unelected president. Yeah, we've never had those before, right? We've never had, people on the left that were whispering in the ear of the president.
Never had, the president's wife running cabinet meetings or anything like that. Oh, wait.
So I don't know. Basically, Hollywood's shitting themselves, and they should be. They should be, because everything's changing. Everything's changing. People are tuning out. So I don't know. It's as if people have been saying this was going to happen for years, and nobody listened and made fun of us. We're going to wrap it up.
Yes.
Yeah. So please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.